Finally, they released the footage of this fatal incident that happened between Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony at the track meet. The facility in which the track meet was held does have very distant video footage of the incident.
You wake up to an explosion on social media. It's not a rumor. It's not speculation. It's a full-blown firestorm. Screenshots of alleged text messages have surfaced. Texts that prosecutors claim could connect Carmelo Anthony's parents directly to the events that led to Austin Metcalf's stabbing. The messages are time-stamped, emotionally charged, and already spreading like wildfire across news feeds and group chats. According to court insiders, these aren't just casual conversations. They're being labeled as premeditative indicators, revealing a potential knowledge of or involvement in the events leading up to the incident. Local authorities haven't confirmed whether the texts came from a subpoenaed phone or if they were leaked from a private source. But one thing is certain: the messages reference handling it, knowing where he'd be, and no cameras out front, according to journalists who've reviewed parts of the discovery file. These lines have now been isolated, clipped, and circulated by every major commentary page online. The public's response: outrage, confusion, disbelief, split straight down the middle. Some are calling for immediate arrest and prosecution. Others are demanding that context be shown before judgment is passed. Meanwhile, prosecutors are wasting no time. They've now introduced these texts into their evolving case file, potentially repositioning the narrative entirely. What started as a case focused solely on Carmelo himself has now widened to include the possibility of a coordinated effort. Sources close to the family claim the messages are being misunderstood, taken out of context, and that private group chats don't reflect criminal intent. But in a courtroom, context can be twisted, especially when a life was lost and the court of public opinion has already drawn its own conclusions. Whether these texts hold real legal weight or not, their emotional weight is undeniable. The Anthony family, once unified, now appears fragmented under the spotlight. And as the digital evidence mounts, one question remains: were these just emotionally charged messages sent in a time of chaos? Or are they the breadcrumbs of something far more calculated? As the leaked text messages continue to circulate, investigators are reportedly retracing every digital footprint leading up to the night of the stabbing. The content of the messages suggests an awareness of Austin Metcalf's movements, down to his location, who he was with, and even how long he'd be there. Law enforcement officials, speaking on background, noted that one particular message, sent hours before the incident, stated, "He's out tonight. We'll handle it if it gets messy." Prosecutors believe this could indicate a prearranged plan, though the defense insists it was vague language referring to a family argument, not a violent confrontation. Digital forensics teams have been brought in to authenticate the messages. The phone data, if verified, could show exact timestamps, sender IDs, and geolocation data at the time each message was sent. This type of evidence is notoriously difficult to discredit once it's presented in court, especially if it can be paired with surveillance footage or eyewitness testimony. And in this case, sources say multiple angles are being explored, including whether the messages were sent from the same area where Metcalf was last seen before the altercation. Public pressure is mounting on the district attorney's office to formally indict Carmelo's parents based on conspiracy. Activists online are demanding further arrests, but the legal system is slower than public outrage, and attorneys representing the Anthony family are already preparing motions to suppress any digital evidence that they claim was obtained without proper warrants. They argue that any leaked text messages released to the public cannot be considered credible until verified through official channels. Meanwhile, supporters of the Metcalf family have begun holding nightly vigils outside the courthouse, holding signs that read, "Justice for Austin," and "Unmask the Truth." The environment around this case is becoming increasingly tense, not just legally, but socially. Media vans line the block. Legal analysts speculate hourly on talk shows. And now, every move Carmelo's parents make is under a microscope. From grocery store visits to legal team meetings, nothing is private anymore. With the court date drawing near and the prosecution stacking evidence, what was once seen as a tragic altercation is now being viewed as a potentially coordinated takedown. And the world is watching every frame, every message, every word. In newly filed court documents obtained late last night, prosecutors are now listing Carmelo Anthony's parents as persons of interest in the facilitation of premeditated violence. This marks the first official signal that the state may be pivoting toward a conspiracy angle in the investigation, something that had only been speculated up until this point. Sources inside the courthouse confirm that the text messages in question are now part of the discovery phase and are expected to be used in the prosecution's opening arguments if the case proceeds to trial. What's especially damning is the language within one particular thread that reportedly includes a message from Karmelo's father reading, "I won't let him disrespect us again. Nobody gets away twice." Analysts are calling this the most aggressive line yet and are suggesting that it could be framed as intent, especially if it's proven that the message was sent shortly before the fatal encounter. The defense is expected to argue that the words were emotional venting in a private conversation and not instructions or an admission of intent. But prosecutors believe that when paired with the timeline of events, the message takes on a far more sinister meaning. As the legal strategy unfolds, attention is also turning to the digital trail. Phone records, chat logs, and even deleted files recovered from cloud backups are being scoured. Experts say that any attempts to erase or wipe information from devices could be seen as obstruction, further complicating the case for the Anthony family. And right now, with the entire family's devices subpoenaed and under forensic review, prosecutors are betting that the texts are only the beginning. Outside the legal world, the impact is spreading fast. Influencers are dissecting every sentence in the messages, content creators are building entire theories from emoji usage, and news channels are now allocating daily airtime to trial updates. It's no longer just about what happened to Austin Metcalf. It's about whether a wider plan existed and if Karmelo's family helped pave the way for that fatal night. All of this is unfolding as the public watches in real time, with trust in the Anthony name hanging by a thread. Surveillance footage now under review may place Karmelo Anthony's father at a nearby convenience store just 90 minutes before the stabbing occurred. According to law enforcement officials familiar with the footage, he appeared to be on the phone, pacing aggressively, and, allegedly, holding what some analysts believe could be the same jacket seen discarded near the scene hours later. Though nothing in the video directly ties him to the confrontation itself, investigators believe this timeline could help corroborate the idea that communication was active and strategic leading up to the incident. This isn't just about a tragic moment anymore. It's starting to resemble a fully interconnected timeline. According to sources close to the investigation, authorities are currently matching cell tower pings from multiple devices belonging to Karmelo's parents, cross-referencing their locations in the hours and days prior. Preliminary data indicates that both phones were pinged from within a half-mile radius of Austin Metcalf's residence on more than one occasion the week of the incident. If that proximity holds up in court, it could bolster prosecutors' claims that the stabbing wasn't spontaneous. There's also growing concern about a group chat that was reportedly archived and only discovered after a second search warrant was executed. This chat allegedly included not only Karmelo and his parents, but at least 2 unidentified relatives. In it, a series of short replies, things like "handle it," "it's time," and "we'll back you," paint a cryptic but potentially explosive picture. Legal experts warn that even vague messages can be weaponized in court, especially if prosecutors can draw a clear line from words to action. Karmelo's legal team is scrambling to get ahead of what they're calling selective framing. They argue that out-of-context texts and circumstantial videos are being twisted into a narrative that doesn't reflect the truth. Their claim is simple. The Anthony family was emotional, not criminal. But with digital trails, time-stamped footage, and a highly charged courtroom atmosphere, the difference between grief and guilt is becoming harder to define in the public eye. Inside the courtroom, the mood has grown darker with each new revelation. One of the most damning pieces of evidence introduced this week was a forensic report confirming that a burner phone, allegedly traced back to Karmelo's mother, was used to send a final message, just 17 minutes before Austin Metcalf was stabbed. The message, according to prosecutors, read, "Keep it clean." That one phrase, though short and vague, has become a centerpiece in the prosecution's argument that this was not only premeditated, but orchestrated with calculated restraint. The defense responded swiftly, claiming the phone in question has never been directly linked to Karmelo's mother. They argue that even if she had possession of it, the message lacks context and could be misinterpreted. Still, for courtroom spectators and analysts, the idea of a hidden phone used in the moments leading up to the stabbing only adds to the narrative that this wasn't a heat-of-the-moment outburst, but rather the final move in a prearranged plan. Outside the courthouse, demonstrations are intensifying. Supporters of the Metcalf family have set up daily vigils, holding signs that read, "Justice for Austin," and chanting phrases like "text messages don't lie." Meanwhile, pro-Anthony protesters insist that the messages are being twisted, accusing media outlets of driving a witch hunt against the family. Tensions have even led to scuffles on courthouse steps, with law enforcement forced to separate crowds more than once this week. One courtroom observer noted the shift in Karmelo's demeanor as the texts were read aloud. Gone was the stoic posture he maintained during opening arguments. Instead, he stared straight ahead, clenching his jaw, his hands trembling slightly in his lap. His parents, seated just 2 rows behind him, were equally stone-faced, his mother occasionally whispering to their attorney, his father glancing around the room nervously. Whether the message, "keep it clean," was meant as a warning, a signal, or something else entirely is still up for debate. But in a trial already steeped in speculation, every word now carries weight. And with digital evidence mounting and national attention locked in, the Anthony family's silence is starting to sound louder than anything they've said in their own defense. Just days after the text chain surfaced, a new witness has stepped forward, one who may shift the entire direction of the case. A former classmate of Karmelo's, who's chosen to remain anonymous for now, claims to have seen Karmelo meeting with his parents behind the school gym 2 days before the stabbing. What's raising eyebrows isn't just the meeting, it's what the witness says they overheard. According to their statement, the conversation was tense. Karmelo allegedly told his parents, "He's been talking. I can't let it slide again." The witness admits they didn't hear the entire discussion, but insists the tone was serious, like something was already in motion. That phrase, "I can't let it slide again," is now under review alongside the already mounting digital evidence. Prosecutors believe it could indicate prior altercations or threats between Karmelo and the victim that had not yet come to light. Even more unsettling is the emergence of a private note found in Karmelo's locker during a school investigation. Initially dismissed as irrelevant, the handwritten message read, "It ends Friday, no more warnings." While no names were attached, the note was time-stamped and folded behind a drawing of a knife. That imagery, combined with the timing, has reignited speculation about the extent of planning behind the stabbing. Karmelo's legal team is working quickly to discredit the new witness, citing the timing of their emergence as suspiciously convenient. They're calling into question the accuracy of what the person claims to have heard, arguing that vague statements shouldn't outweigh the presumption of innocence. But in the eyes of the court, a pattern may be forming. Text messages, cryptic notes, eyewitness statements, all pointing toward a chilling possibility that Karmelo wasn't alone in what happened, and that his parents didn't just know, but may have supported it. Still, no official charges have yet been filed against the witness or any new parties. The prosecution remains tight-lipped about whether this statement will be formally introduced in court. But inside the legal circle, murmurs suggest the case is far from finished, and each new piece only tightens the net around the Anthony family. Now, with mounting public pressure and new evidence surfacing almost daily, the atmosphere surrounding the Anthony case has shifted from one of shock to anticipation. What started as a tragic schoolyard stabbing has exploded into a full-scale criminal investigation, implicating not just a student, but his entire family. Prosecutors are reportedly preparing to present a sealed motion that insiders say may include additional digital communications and timeline reconstructions. If admitted, this could tie Karmelo's parents more directly to the events leading up to the stabbing, possibly justifying accessory charges or even aiding and abetting. Meanwhile, the school district is conducting its own internal investigation. Several parents have expressed outrage that warning signs may have been overlooked. Some say they noticed a change in Karmelo's behavior in the weeks before the stabbing, becoming more withdrawn, more agitated. Others claim he was frequently seen in the parking lot talking to adults who weren't school staff, possibly his parents. One faculty member, speaking anonymously, said they reported a concern to administration about Karmelo's recent attitude shift, but no follow-up ever occurred. As for the online reaction, it's been relentless. The exposed text chain between Karmelo and his parents continues to circulate, with many calling it damning and demanding full transparency. Still, some defend the family, warning the public not to rush to judgment before the legal process plays out. The court of public opinion, however, isn't waiting. Hashtags like #JusticeForAustin and #IndIt. The Anthonys are trending across platforms, while live streams from outside the courthouse draw thousands of viewers at a time. The Anthony family has not issued a new public statement since the leak. Their legal counsel maintains that the messages were taken out of context and that the family is being unfairly vilified in the media. But behind closed doors, sources say they're preparing for the possibility of additional charges, potentially by the end of the month. Whether or not Karmelo's parents will be officially charged remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: the case has evolved far beyond a single act of violence. It now questions how far influence can stretch and whether a family's private messages can end up becoming the cornerstone of a criminal trial.